Okay, so to get started, just some context. This is the 10-year anniversary of the North Holland Library. So
Mm-hmm.
BCC's newest library, groundbreaking occurred on October 21st in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Funding took 12 years to secure for the building, and construction finished 1 decade ago in 2012. It is
Mm-hmm.
the first structure added to the campus since BCC moved to its University Heights campus in 1973. And since then, students, staff, and faculty have been instructing pretty consistently and very
Mm-hmm.
effectively. So, to open up,
Yes, because when I started here in 88.
mm,
And when I first started, that was one of the things that they told me that, oh, we're going to get a new building. And after some years, I said, okay, stop telling me that. I don't believe it anymore until I actually see the ground breaking.
you were in Meister Hall at that time?
I started off in, if you know the history, the Learning Center and the library were separated. So I worked in the Learning Center, which was the audio visual part. So we were in a separate building. And then when this building got built and we came over, that's when we merged and became one, but we were always separated.
Mm-hmm.
So the main library was in Meister, and then the audiovisual part was in another building, which was Sage Hall, which is behind Meister.
Oh, I see. Okay.
hmm And
Yeah.
when I started, I was like I said, I started off as a college assistant, but when I became a librarian in 2001, that's when I was offered a full-time position, but it had to, well, a full-time librarian's position. And then they said I had to move over to the main library, which was in Meister Hall.
Yeah, and I think before that, even before but that must have been when NYU owned it. Then you have Gould
Yeah,
Memorial Library.
I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah, that's okay. So
I ain't that old.
let's start about you. You can tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, everything leading up to the year 2022.
Okay. Well, I am born and raised in New York. Um, and I lived over in this area. I think we moved over here, if I remember right, maybe when I was about 7 or 8. We moved right across the road. We used to live on right on Davison Avenue, right off of 181st Street, which is not, the building is not there anymore. And I
Mhm.
remember the number of the building, even though I was young. It was 2114 Davison Avenue.
You lived in the hilly bits. You drive out of
Well,
there.
it's actually, well, the campus is mainly on University Avenue. That's the main entrance. So it's actually what, 2 or 3 blocks over Davison Avenue.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So, but I was too young to know all of that stuff. When I moved, I didn't travel the neighborhood or anything like that. But when I was about 10, we moved over to Sedgwick Avenue,
Mhm.
which is in the Kingsbridge area. So still not far from here. So walking distance, like I could walk here if I want to.
In your community, you've known people who attended BCC or worked at BCC. Like,
Not necessarily.
mhm.
Not necessarily. Even when I started working here, I was going to Lehman.
Oh,
So
okay.
I never attended classes at BCC. I used to go to Lehman. I was working on my bachelor's, and I was like, you know what? I need a job. And I came to BCC because they offered me a college assistant position. So yeah,
Oh, so
but go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So starting out your educational journey, and kind of how it wound you up on the path towards library science and the stewardship of um, the Bronx campus. Where would you say like started you, um, like on that path, specifically as it pertains to library work or academic librarianship?
Well, I have to tell you that first, in my family, I'm the only person and the first person in my family who went to college,
Oh, wow.
period. So I'm that first generation for my family. Um, but when I was at Lehman and I started with my bachelor's actually in accounting. And the reason I took accounting is because back then I was this shy person and I thought, okay, I like math. I don't like to be around a whole bunch of people. So accounting is perfect for me because I don't have to deal with crowds and I never liked crowds. So that's why I did accounting. But when I decided I needed to get a job, I was working at Lehman in their library, but that was with work study.
Mhm.
So at the time, work study, you only got paid like every 3 weeks. And I was like, I was still home living with my parents and stuff, but it was like, that's not 3 weeks. By the time 3 weeks comes, everything is due and I don't have no extra money. So I decided to look for a part time job. So that's what brought me to BCC. And at BCC, like I said, I was working in the Learning Center, which was the audiovisual part of the library. So I was working the desk, helping students, and I kind of evolved from that shy person that I was when I first started to, oh, I like being around all of these different personalities, and every day is different. It's not the same. And people aren't that bad. Not that I thought people were bad, but I was one of those people, like I said, I kept to myself in school. I was always quiet. Sit me in the back of the classroom and I'm okay. I'm happy with that. Don't ask me no questions. I know my stuff, but don't ask me nothing. I didn't want to be the center of attraction.
I understand that perfectly. Both my parents are accountants.
So I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
But specifically, like right when you decided to go to school for the library sciences, was there anyone influential, either in a mentorship capacity or any like close like family relations who were like trying to guide you towards that?
no family relations, but Leroy Lawton, who you know, he kind of said to me one day, "You know everything that goes on in this place, and you taught me some things. So why don't you go to library school?" And I was more like, I think that's boring. No, I don't want to do that. But I did know everything, not being sorry, but I did. I knew the workings, the in and outs. And so when I decided to listen to him and say, okay, let's do this, I did. I had two kids in between because I'm a little crazy woman. So I was working on, I already had my daughter, but in the interim of me working on my master's, because I was still working full time, right? So I was working here full time and then going to school 2 nights in a row. So I would leave Bronx and take the bus, the Q44, all the way out to Queens College, take 2 classes, come back home, not get home until about 11 o'clock. And I crazy enough to have two boys in between all that. So it was a challenge. But what I do like, and I always tell people that if you really want something, you can do it. And if you have that support system, it's even better.
And I mean, you I assume work closely with Leroy. Like you're thankful for the influence, or was it
hmm
stressful to kind of put yourself out there, go back? Like I went.
No, no, because I've always wanted. I always like to learn, and
Mhm.
I'm a reader. I'm an avid reader. I read everything from memoirs to urban fiction to history. I love mysteries, so I'm an avid person to read and always looking up stuff. And so I was in it in my head, but just not doing it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And even when I was younger, before I guess when I was younger and I thought about a career, I always wanted to be a teacher.
Mm.
right? That was where my thoughts really, really were. But then as I got older, I realized I don't, like I said, I don't like being around a whole bunch of people. And then when I started going to library school and being around people, I was like, okay, I could do this, but I don't want to be a teacher because I live down the street from a junior high school. And I was like, I would choke some of these children right now with all the stuff that you see. So I was like, no, 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 no. So, but working with older people and working with, adults, teenage, the 18, 19-year olds, I'm good with that. And that bonding, because everyone really does want to learn and everybody is looking for some type of information. So, and people are curious. So I feel like I help them explore and learn new things and learn things about themselves as well.
Yeah, it sounds like you transitioned very gracefully from first accounting, then education, then to librarianship. Was it? I want to ask, like, now that you're working at BCC, do you feel like everything's kind of lined up for you in that way?
For me, yes.
Mhm.
Yes. And I, even though I have my bachelor's in accounting, I never did any accounting
Mhm.
because I never left BCC.
So how has your work at the college shaped your identity? Like, what goes into your job, and how does your job then impress itself upon you as a person?
The most important thing that I feel and the thing I take pride in the most is just being able to help people. That's it in a nutshell. I think about that every day is not always a good day. Every day is different. Today you might have this confrontation, or this person might be unhappy, or this person might be, just not in the best of moods. But I've learned that to me, I think I have a bonding kind of kindred kind of spirit. So, and I think that shows. So I think in any kind of situation, I'm able to pull that in and tone that down if anything is going astray. I think I'm able to, in a, not in a, I think in a motherly way,
Mhm.
because I also take pride in being a mom. And I think that throws off on me too, that personality that I'm not trying to do anything wrong. I'm just trying to help you out and make you feel like you're in a better situation than you are.
Do you have any like personal stories or reflections of like instances that were particularly affecting to you, either positively or negatively, while at BCC?
One weird one was, I will never forget. I was still in the learning center, and a young lady approached me and she was like, "Well, where is the librarian?" And I said, "Well, I'm the librarian." And her response to me was, and it's not exact, but I'll never forget so I'm paraphrasing. She was like, "Well, you don't have glasses on, and you have on pants." And I was like, okay. And and I was trying to figure out, like, where was she from? Like, where did that come from? And I don't remember how I asked that question, but she was from the islands. So I guess she wasn't, and I think it had to do with too that I was a black person. And she hadn't seen that many African American Black librarians. So this was a new thing for her, but she still had that stereotype that a librarian is supposed to have, a female librarian is supposed to have glasses, and she's supposed to wear dresses. And so it took me aback, but it was funny, but it took me aback because I was like, ooh, First of all, I do wear glasses. I wear contact lenses because, you know, but I was never a dress kind of person. Now I am, but at the time, no. I would always prefer to put on a pair of jeans or a pair of slacks and a shirt and keep it moving. That was me, So that was a kind of like one of those moments that you say, hmm, because the stereotype actually presented itself.
The
And
perception.
we all have some kind of stereotype about something, or like you said, perception about something, but it was just weird. Like I was confronted with it and I didn't really know what to do about it.
Yeah, it's a good segue to our next topic because I like based on this perception, like I myself had perceptions of what academic librarianship was before I entered the program. I'm also a Queens College alumni. Um,
Mm.
but like how would you perceive the profession, or even more broadly just librarianship, its role in society, its responsibilities, before you entered education?
I think that I have to say, before I started working at a college and in the library, even when I was going to Lehman, I didn't spend that much time in the library. I was, unless I was working. Um, and I think that was because when I started at Lehman many moons ago, we didn't even have the computers that we have now and the systems that we have now. That's how old I am. Don't say anything. So we used to have these cards that we used to have to put in the computers and print stuff out. It was really, really weird. I don't even remember typing back then. But now I think that what I love most and I tell the students about that I encounter is that you really do have access to everything. You really do. Everything is really at the touch of her hand. And I recall when I was doing my research in Lehman how everything was paper, right? So if I wanted a journal and I went to go pull that journal off of the shelf because I was looking for this particular article in that journal, guess what? When I opened the journal page, the article in that particular journal, somebody tore the pages out. So, now I'm stuck. What do I do now? And in this age and time, you don't have to worry about anybody pulling out a page, right? Because everything is digital. It's right there. No one can tear the pages out, you know?
So what would be the difference between like now and then, like just entering the profession, or even like slightly before entering the profession? Like, um, what is the role of library in society, or your view of what function libraries serve?
I think that our our main goal, well, I feel like my main goal is to reach in and help the students steer their way to exactly what they're looking for and steer their way into information. Um, like today, for example, a student came into the library and he was sent here from admissions, oddly enough, and he was trying to figure out how to get some classes, right? He's not registered for BCC yet, but he wants to come to BCC. And he was interested in finding some workshops to help him out with the pre-test, so like the math and the reading, but specifically he wanted some research on math, like he wanted some study things to do for math. And in that conversation, first of all, I was like, well, why would they send him over here? Because we don't do math tutoring in the library. And someone from admission sent him over, right? So you're thinking like, why are they sending him over here? But then when you talk to this individual, you find out what his career path. He wants to do the LPN. So I gave him some information about the LPN and steered him on, well, we have an issue with the LPN right now, but anyway, gave him some information about that. Um, Told him about the math lab, which is in the Carl Palachuk building, and told him how they usually have workshops on doing math. And you don't have to be a student. You could be that student that's in the spring you want to come to BCC. So just engaging, and trying to help people find the right answer and solution. But one thing I always say, I don't know all the answers, but I'm going to try to figure it out and steer you in the right direction. And why do I think that's important? Because I take things personal. You know, when you call a company about an issue and they say, "Oh, well, I'm going to transfer you over here," and then you're transferred over there, and then that person says, "Oh, I can't help you. I'm going to transfer you over here." And by the time you go through the circle, you're now annoyed because I still didn't find my answer and I talked to 4 or 5 people. So when people leave here, I don't want them to be upset. I want them to know that I did my best to help them out. And I've had students who I have helped who have left BCC and went on to get their bachelor's, went on to get their master's, and they still come back to BCC whenever there's something going on. And well, Miss Kathy, I need this, or I need you to help me do this, and they're not even here no more. They have libraries at Lehman. They have libraries in Baruch, but no, these people, because of the care that they got from here, want to come back to what we provide. And it's not just me, you know. We all have our how do I say that? We all have our strengths and we all have weaknesses. That's everybody, right? But it's gearing it to the right way and being honest enough, and I say adult enough to say, okay, well, I might not know the answer to this, but Alex knows, and pass it. But pass it knowing that I don't know, but you do know. So that person is going to go to you next and get the right answer. So it's about sharing, informing, and definitely not about being selfish. You can't be selfish in our
Mentoring in a
profession.
way. It's yeah, people are so like I myself was surprised with how much library science is like facilitating information retrieval. It's going through the shells game books for people, but also sitting with them, reference services, actually,
Hmm.
helping people find the tools themselves to solve their problems. So I want to transition now towards the Meister Hall again, kind of like it's not the place we want to be right now, especially with this beautiful building. But Meister Hall's basement, the old library.
Have
What
you
are
been in there?
I haven't. I've been near it outside it. I think they had closed it the last time I came to campus. I just didn't. Yeah, it's
You're not missing anything.
oh,
But I used to call it the dungeon.
oh yeah, that's what it sounds like based on
Yes, I used to call it the dungeon. Um, like I said, I actually went over there to physically work when I got my master's and I got that full-time position. And at the time, I felt like, in a way, it was it's a building, right? But I also felt like, because of how the building was, I felt like we weren't respected as librarians. You know, you're a librarian, but you have a cubicle, you don't have an office. Um, it's raining in the office. There's leaks in the office. there's rodents running around the office. Um, I remember I had in my particular office, well, my cubicle, at one point, I actually had to have a tarp put over my head because the water was coming down. And then they took the tarp and they um, attached a tube to the tarp so that when it rained from the roof, the water would hit the tarp and go into the bucket. And guess who would have to empty this bucket? And it wasn't like it was if you know how our office is situated, so the bathroom is right there, right? No, you had to walk across the floor. Or you would go in the back where there's parking and just dump it outside. But it was just rainwater, but it was coming from the ceiling.
Um,
And the dungeon, which was I called it the dungeon. We didn't have windows. There was only selected windows, right? And there was no real outside light. So it was a place, and don't get me wrong, students always gravitate to the library, and we worked and we did what we had to do, but it wasn't a conducive place. To me, it was friendly because of us, but it wasn't friendly because of the building that
do
we
you
were in.
do you have any like memories of students interacting with the building, like um, patron, like either you kind of saving a reference request or kind of how it has impacted how people like engage with the library?
Like I said, I don't think it necessarily it didn't impact our services and the work that we provided and the things that we did. But again, I just didn't see that the environment, the physical environment, was healthy.
Mhm.
It was drab.
Yeah.
Like I said, no windows. And yeah, the students didn't see the windows at all. So the few windows that we had were in the back behind this door. And so the students didn't even see that. So when they walk in, they walk into that basement. And then the lower level, because we had that main level when you walked in, and then we had the lower level, and that's where we had our periodicals. And that was really the dungeon.
Do you have any stories about like that specific moment in 2012 when the books are being loaded up and they're being ferried over to the new library? Like, I mean, I assume there's some elation with that, but kind of describe what that sort of that that grand opening ceremony was like.
It was bittersweet. I mean, like I said, because when I came in 87, end of 88, I was told we're moving, we're doing a new building, blah 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 blah. And that's I'm saying that because that's how I took it after some years. Like this is not happening. Um, so to actually see the vision, to see the groundbreaking meant okay, this is real. It's happening. And to come in and see the books being put on the shelf because we put the books on the shelf, um, to see that, to see the offices, to see the light, to look up and see all of this space and all of the light and the sun shining in. It was beautiful to be able to turn around and look outside, and you either see across the campus, or if you're sitting in that little lanai park and you look across and you see like the buildings and stuff. It makes life real, you know. This I'm inside and I'm here, and we always know we're here for a purpose, but to actually be able to just see the beautifulness of it all, to see the artwork that was put on the walls. And look at that, the space, the seating, all of the computers, the study rooms, because we didn't have study rooms. There was no study rooms. So everybody's talking and engaging. And it kind of got loud at times that we had to call security because, listen, you got a whole library of people and everybody's talking and you're too loud and this is going, and engagement, but sometimes it wasn't good engagement. So just to have a space where everybody can be and everybody can be comfortable and it's conducive because people like lights. People don't like to feel like they're in a cell because that's what it felt like.
Yeah,
No,
it's yeah,
no,
massive, like high ceilings, like the North Hall and library. It's like a completely different environment.
and everybody wants to come.
Do you have any like special memories of the early years, like maybe 1, 2, even 3 years, like after the halls opened, of like just night and day differences with like reference services or sitting one on one with interested parties, like
I think it brought morale up to us and the students. And with me, I used to work a lot with the students with disabilities. So now I have a place where they could come and feel comfortable, and I'm not in the middle of the floor. When you have a student that's visually impaired and they have to have their screens and the text so large and everybody's walking past and seeing what that person is seeing. So they didn't have that privacy. So now there's a room for that. If they want that privacy, we have that space for them. And we can actually do one on one where I'm in a room with that person and working with them, and everybody doesn't have to know what we're discussing. And it's not a group conversation because that's not supposed to be one on one, it's supposed to be one on one. And we couldn't do that over in the other building. So now we're able to do that. Now the students can get together and do group projects and they can go in one of our study rooms and they don't have to worry about someone saying you're too loud, you can't do this. So it changed everything to a positive because now everything is enhanced, um, between the services, between us, and between the students, because trust me, it brought up their morale as well. When the students who used to be here and they graduated before this came into being, and they come back and they're looking for us and they're like, whoa, look at this, and they're surprised,
did you
but
have
they're
like
happy too.
do you have like
Like,
instances
wow.
of like very positive feedback or like just things that like really changed like how you're interacting, like anything that was like a really like kind of made you feel better about working in the library?
Like I said, it's for me, it's just that openness.
Mm.
And then like I said, being able to, if a student needs that one-on-one conversation or that one-on-one instruction, it's now available, and we can do that without distractions. So that person, that shy person who used to be me, can, instead of, if they're intimidated about, if we're doing a library instruction for the whole class, and that quiet person who's, I don't want to raise my hand, which, like I said, was me back then, later on after class says, well, can I meet with you and we can discuss this and whatever, then I'm available and I have that setting that we can do this in. And I love that part.
Mhm.
I love the fact that we're able to do this now. But I also think us as librarians, we were always teaching, and I don't think we even got it. Like now we're doing library instruction courses, and we're doing class where we don't do courses here at BCC, but we do the classes, right? And I think that sometimes we get in the way of ourselves because we say, oh, we're not instructors, we're non-teaching. Some people say that. Oh, well, we're non-teaching. You're not non-teaching. You've been teaching from day one. You're a librarian. You don't get that? you know you're showing somebody how to in the simplest, you're showing somebody how to find a book in a catalog, right? You're instructing them, right? Even though it's minuscule to you, or because we do it so much, it's minuscule to us, but that's instruction, you know and I don't think we got that in the beginning. It's not new. It's something that we've always been doing, but I don't think we even acknowledged that that's what we were doing.
Further on, like through the years, like of course we can talk about COVID in a minute, but like where do you think, and do you have any stories about the North Holland Library kind of at its peak, where you kind of really felt like you entered the groove of instruction? Um, if anything about that point.
I think that because we had in the old building, it was, you could call it a classroom, but it really wasn't a classroom. Like they had these big pillars in the middle of the floor, and there were no computers. We had the students using laptops at the time, and there was no door. So when people were coming in and out of the library, um, of course, we could hear it. And us doing instruction in that open area, the students who were out on the floor, they could hear us. So again, not that conduciveness. So we didn't do, I think, as many classes as we had would have liked to, because we didn't have our own classroom. So with our new building, as you know, we have a nice sized classroom. So we're able to engage, we're able to do classes, and that's another positive. And I think with this new building too, is that we've actually had more students come in and use the facility now than ever, I feel, because of the building itself and because of us, the staff, the faculty, and the staff of the library. So I think that, like I said, that the building just, because we were doing what we were doing prior to a new building, but I think the building enhanced everything. It enhanced us. It engaged the students. It made us feel better. It made them feel better. And now we have the space where we can actually do what we want to do, which is to teach and to show and to instruct.
And in the past 3 years, talking specifically like 2019 onwards, like how have your memories been of?
COVID.
I know. I mean, how has it been? Like, what do you remember? What are your has been your experience of the past 3 years, specifically um, trying to use the library facilities, even during quarantine, or trying to get other people to, remember the library's still there, come on out.
I think that what we wind up doing, and I think that this helped us a lot too, is because we were doing virtual reference anyway, right? So that wasn't the big change for us. We were doing it more now because of COVID. But I think just the transition part, the part that everyone was working from home, that took its toll for me personally, because I'm not a home person. I like getting up, I like coming to work, I like seeing people. So to have to be on the computer all the time, that's not me either. I like the computer. It has its purposes. But do I want to be on a computer from the time I wake up to the time I get off a shift? No, it was not fun. It was an adjustment. And then, two, you know, I felt like I was working a little bit more than I was if I was physically in here, because didn't take lunch breaks because you forgot about it. You're home now, so it was, everybody needs some air, right? But when I was working from home, it was like, no, I might miss something. Because what we were doing and what I was doing was we set up our email accounts, because we had one email account and that was really it. We didn't really use it that much. So we had to set up additional email accounts for each area, right? So that when someone wanted to contact us specifically about, like, I used to manage circulation, I manage our databases. So on our system, actually, if there's an issue with a database, they already have my email there, right? So I'm the person that they contact. But as the interim circulation access services person, we had to get that established. Okay, we need an email because people are going to be inquiring. I have this book. I can't, what do I do with it? It was due here. Am I accumulating fines? I can't access the database because I don't have my ID, you know, or my email is not set up, so I can't access the electronic reserves. So it was a lot of communication and a lot of shifting, but I think we handled it well. Um, it was a change, and I really enjoyed the fact that when we were able to actually come in, even if it was just that one day out of the week kind of thing that we started off with, or when we still set up our interlibrary college loan. So we had it so that students could still come and pick up books if they needed it. And it wasn't, only thing was, it wasn't the textbooks, but we also had alternatives for that. So we worked with internet archives. So we had them, they set them up with that. So they were able to look at their textbooks and things of that nature. Um, we still were doing the e-reserve. So if there was something available, we would still do chapters and we would make that accessible for the students. So we did what we could, and I think we did a good job. But we were all glad to be back. Like, even if it wasn't every day, because no one wanted to come back every day, because we were still kind of, this COVID thing is still iffy. And so no, we didn't, everybody did, and we didn't all want to come back at the same time. But everybody wanted to be here. And the students wanted to come back and engage. So that part of it was nice. But we lost some people with COVID. Um, and it changed a lot. People were doing more than one thing. Like me, I was doing three jobs. I was managing the databases, managing the web page. Then I wind up managing circulation because one person retired. Then we had an interim person that didn't work out. So now I have these three titles that I gotta work out and manage. But it was fun because I like to keep busy. So that was the good part. I'm not one of those people that just want to sit around. No, I like engagement. I like talking to people. I like reaching out. Um, I would email students and I would call them on my personal phone because we're working from home now, right? So if someone had an issue and I said, well, this is a conversation I think we need to have, voice, you need to hear me tell you what's this, and I need to really hear what you want. So you pick up you tell the person, um is there a number that I could call you so we could talk about this? So we did a lot of that, and I did a lot of that, so it was a trying time, but I think we worked it out, and students are slowly coming back to the campus, period. So now that they know that we're open, they're coming back to the library.
Yeah. We're rounding up on the final few questions. I just wanted to know, looking at everything holistically, both your career and the library as it functions, what do you believe either? Well, what do you believe the impact the library has on BCC's community? And I mean everyone involved, students, staff, and faculty.
I always thought that, y- I don't know if you heard this before, but people used to say that the library is like the center of the campus. And I know when I first started working here, because I wasn't actually in the main library, right? I didn't see that. I didn't know what that meant. But working and coming over to the main library, and this is in general, not being in this new building, but just being in general, it's true. Everybody comes to the library for things, all kinds of questions. Like I told you a few minutes ago, this student came from admissions and he's over here and he wants to know how can he get some prerequisite work done, some training just to get his class, just so he can be prepared to come to BCC. So it's like the library really is that centerpiece. And I think that once people realize it, because I don't think people give the library the credit that it's due. But once people realize that and start to respect that, I think the campus would be a little bit better. We're still trying to pull people in, and this is our academic faculty, Um, we're here. Um, we're here to help you. We're here to help our students. I remember a time that in the old library, there was a class, and I forget the exact class, but the teacher would give their students, right, a whole list of books. Not because they wanted them to read all of the books, but they wanted them to read a particular book, right? And they had a reading list. And it didn't matter what book you read from this particular list. But they would just send them to the library and say, oh, well, this book's here. They should be at the library. They weren't in the library because you didn't come over and ask me what we had. So we're sitting at the desk, literally with a student in front of you, typing in these titles, and we're going down a list. And like, say the first 10, we don't have it. 10 titles, we're going down a list of 30 books, and we're going down to 1 to 10, and we don't have it. Or maybe out of the first 10, we got one because you didn't engage with us. Because if you did, you would know what we don't have and what we do have. And that impacts the student because they're coming over here with the understanding that, oh, well, my teacher gave me this list, so you're supposed to have it. No, your teacher didn't talk to us, so we don't have this. So that engagement and that respect, it's it's getting better. Still needs some tweaking, but the library is that centerpiece.
Mhm. And so, how would you characterize then the library's impact on your life personally, and your way of thinking?
I feel like my job in the library from the beginning, when I started many moons ago, um, changed me and helped me to grow as an individual, because like I said, I was that quiet person who was not engaging, didn't like to talk. I was very, very shy. It wasn't that I couldn't talk, I didn't like to talk. I was shy. And being at the library changed all of that for me. And I always say you never know where you're going, those steps, but there's a reason behind it. So I feel like my job here helped mold me to the woman that I am, to the librarian that I am. It molded me. And even though I might have a bad day every now and then, I really like what I do. I like coming to work. I like engaging with people and I like seeing people. And I enjoy helping and putting somebody in the right direction.
I think that's everything. Unless there is something else you want to cover, like I'm not opposed to going off on like anything, a recent memory that kind of really like it makes you reflect on your career and everything due to the library being the 10-year anniversary
Mm,
event. It's putting us all in a very like nostalgic place.
yeah. I think I miss, not I miss, but I have students that I have, and I know, like I have it might be home, but I had a little plaque that my students have given me some time ago. I think oh, here's one. Even though they spelt it wrong, I got this plaque and it says and this was from one of my students. His name was Ronald Harris. And he made me this plaque and it says, to Katherine Parsons, thank you for all your generosity. And it's from the Students of Disability. In 2005, I got this little plaque.
That's beautiful.
I know you can't see it,
Oh, that's a
but
nice.
yeah, they gave me
Oh.
that. And I keep it in here, and I have another one at home. But those little things make me proud
Mhm.
because I did it from the heart. I feel like I do things from the heart. Like I know that's my job, People say, "Oh, that's my job." But it's all from my heart because I enjoy what I do. I enjoy helping people. And I never would have thought that about myself back then.
Mhm. Well, we're all glad that you didn't become an accountant. So,
I think so. I probably would have been bananas by now, right?
no, thank you for everything.
So I appreciate that. And this was nice.
Yeah. I believe that's everything. Yeah, thank you for sharing your experiences, your memories with us.
Yeah.
And yeah,